well, well. The Scandalathon is over. Eric Holder finally steps down. How about that? I just wish he would have done that years ago and saved us all a lot of grief. We'll talk about that. What is the difference between peace through strength and whatever it is Obama is doing? It's certainly not peace through strength, that's for sure. We'll talk about that. We have some dire warnings from the United Nations Messenger of Peace, Leonardo DiCaprio. We'll talk about that, all of that, and more right here, right now on this, The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to email the show for your ranting or venting pleasure, or to comment, or if you have a question for me or some feedback, the email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. So the big news of the week has to be Eric Holder finally ending his 6-year scandal-ridden career as Attorney General of the United States. Maybe we can finally get back to work over there in the Justice Department. Somehow I doubt it. Barack I is sure to appoint a new Attorney General that will continue to stonewall Congress and run interference for this administration. And of course, Obama had nothing but high praise for Holder, but the truth is, the way Eric Holder has run the DOJ has been an absolute disgrace. He has interjected race into pretty much any and every conversation. He has been arrogant in the face of questioning by various oversight committees in Congress. He has been voted to be in contempt of Congress, both civilly and criminally. And those votes came from both Republicans and Democrats, by the way. And he has simply refused to cooperate in any investigation into the DOJ. And not to mention, he has joined Obama in constantly speaking negatively about America, especially when it comes to race. Talking about how we're a nation of cowards. Remember that?
To the heart of this country, one must examine its racial soul. Though this nation has proudly thought of itself as an ethnic melting pot, in things racial, we have always been, and we, I believe, continue to be, in too many ways, essentially a nation of cowards.
A nation of cowards. Is America a nation of cowards? That's not my perspective. In the context of race, does a nation of cowards go to war with itself to free slaves? I think that was a bold action. I don't think it was cowardly at all for Abraham Lincoln to battle it out with the South and free all the slaves. To get to the heart of the country, we have to examine its racial soul, he said. What kind of stupid thing is that to say? That doesn't even make any sense. Racial soul? The United States of America has a racial soul? If you want to get to the heart of the country, Eric Holder, you need to examine rugged individualism. You need to examine freedom. You need to examine why our forefathers took up the slogan, "Don't tread on me." Try doing that. I think examining any one of those would bring you closer to the heart of this country than trying to examine its racial soul. That doesn't even make sense. I love it when liberals try to wax philosophical and it just comes out sounding stupid. Kind of like when Gaff Machine Biden told the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing that it was worth it. Remember that?
Let me say to those, quote, survivors, my God, you have survived and you have soared. It was worth it. I mean it sincerely.
That was Biden trying to tell people it was worth it that they got their legs blown off. What a buffoon. They think they're so deep, but it just comes out so dumb. So dumb that you say something like America's racial soul. And America likes to think of itself as a melting pot? What country is more of a melting pot than America? America is still the nation people climb walls to get into. The only problem with the melting pot is with people who refuse to melt. people who refuse to assimilate and join American culture. I'm not saying to turn your back on your history or heritage. You can remember where you're from. But if you have come to America to live the American dream, then melt, for crying out loud. Why is race the most important thing to racist people? You can tell who is racist because that's all they talk about. They interject race into everything. You know, when that happens, when you interject race into something that has nothing to do with race, you end up losing any teachable moment in society. You end up with a bunch of people who can't figure out which way is up. And before you know it, you have an entire town up in arms over a police officer shooting a criminal. I've played cops and robbers. That's what happens. The cops shoot the robbers. That's what appears to have happened in Ferguson. But our buddy, Eric Holder, sent what? Something like 40 FBI agents to investigate the police in Ferguson? See, that's how stupid you can be when you interject race into everything.
Arizona. What is specifically wrong with the anti-immigration law that has been passed there?
The concern I have about the law that they have passed is that I think it has the possibility of leading to racial profiling.
You know, the law in Arizona was written to basically mirror the federal law. The federal law that this administration is supposed to be enforcing. Since it isn't, and Arizona is one of the states suffering under Obama's failure to do his job, they took matters into their own hands. And Obama sued them for doing his job for him. In that soundbite, you hear Eric Holder's concern that there will be racial profiling. It has nothing to do with race and everything to do with citizenship, with who belongs here. Has everything to do with illegal aliens and skyrocketing crime rates and a state under siege. But see what happens? When you are blinded by race, you interject race into everything and you just can't think straight.
Well, you know, there's a certain level of vehemence, it seems to me, that's directed at me, directed at the president. You know, people talk about taking their country back. There's a certain racial component to this for some people. I don't think this is the thing, is a main driver, but for some, there's a racial animus.
So anyone who criticizes this administration is a racist. See what I mean? Blinded by race. Unable to have any meaningful conversation. It is the destructive policies that we are against, Eric. I don't care what the color of his skin is, or yours. You're the only one obsessing over that. But never mind race. I'm tired of talking about it. Let me skip ahead here. Here's another Holder soundbite. Let's see what this is.
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
So in that soundbite, I think that's an older one before he was appointed Attorney General, but you can clearly hear his left-wing kook fringe view about guns. You know, I don't have a problem with the message against violence, but I like how he just equates the two, you know, like somehow a message against violence and a message against guns are just the same thing. Guns save far more lives than they take. Try to explain that to a liberal and their head will explode. And Holder was obviously in some position of authority over schools or something at the time. Hey, just another reason to homeschool, right? And he's not shy in any way about his intent to brainwash your children into left-wing lunacy. I can't believe he said the word brainwash. That's his word. He said that word. That's what he wants to do. He wants to brainwash you and your children into his way of thinking about guns. Is that what you want? It seems more and more these days that liberals are telling us who they really are. We just need to pay attention and take them at their word. That's Holder's word, brainwash. Here's another goodie.
Make something very clear, and in response to an assertion that you made or hinted at, nobody in the Justice Department has lied.
Why was the letter withdrawn?
The letter was withdrawn because there's information in there that was inaccurate. The Justice Department letter of February...
Okay, well, tell me what's the difference between lying and misleading Congress. in this context?
Well, if you want to have this legal conversation, it all has to do with your state of mind.
Hear that arrogance? He thinks he's being so smart, arguing the legal definition of a lie. It's only a lie if you intend to lie. That's when it's a lie. Holder has been caught in so many lies, it's not even funny. Remember this one?
When did you first know about the program, officially I believe called Fast and Furious? To the best of your knowledge, what date?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
That was Holder in a bold-faced lie. Darrell Issa asked a very simple question, and Holder lied. It has been proven that Holder was briefed on Fast and Furious well in advance of that line of questioning, months in advance. We have the documents. It's been proven. But he lied.
I mean, that
Personal opinion.
But I mean, think about that. When you compare what people endured in the South in the 60s to try to get the right to vote for African Americans, and to compare what people were subjected to there to what happened in Philadelphia, which was inappropriate, it's certainly that, but to call that, to put it, describe it in those terms, I think does a great disservice to people who put their lives on the line, who risked all for my people.
Oops, that was another race comment. That was, Holder was being questioned as to why he failed to prosecute a clear violation of election law in Philadelphia. When the Black Panthers were standing by the voting place, remember that? He was trying to say that any intimidation that went on was an offense far less than what the people in the South endured in the 60s. Of course, the only problem with that is this is in the 60s, and it was Holder's job to prosecute in that case, and he failed to do his job. And what's with this my people business? What are his people? What does he mean by that? Americans? That's my people, Americans. Government employees in the Department of Justice, are those his people? See, when you're blinded by race, you end up sooner or later saying stupid things like that, and he don't care. He knows he'll get away with it because everybody in this administration gets away with everything. He doesn't care what the law is. He's as lawless as Obama. And when you're racist, as far as you're concerned, race trumps the law. And when you're a kook fringe leftist, ideology trumps intelligence, evidence, facts, reality, common sense. And that, in a nutshell, is Eric Holder, who announced this week that he is finally ending the charade and resigning. Goodbye, Eric Holder. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Shocking news. 666, the mark of the beast, and the NIV. God said, man said.com.
Bible rewires addicts' brains. Geologists floored by water rock. God said, man said.com.
Dinosaurs and man contemporaneously. Hours of text and audio. God said, man said.com.
Radiometric dating and a 6,000-year-old Earth. Honey and the finger of God. Free love's deadly superbug. God said, man said.com.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
Welcome back, folks. We are so glad you are joining us for this week's Ray Warner Show. I'm Ray Warner. If you want to email me or rant or vent, the email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. I'm going to change gears here. The Middle East has been a problem for a long time. It's a problem that is not going to go away on its own. As much as Barack I may wish for it, He is not going to wish peace into the Middle East. He is not going to speak, and it shall come to pass. The problem in the Middle East will never be solved by a pacifist liberal. Look at the difference when liberals are in charge. Woodrow Wilson. If you don't know anything about Woodrow Wilson, just understand that he was out there. Not as far from reality as Obama. I mean, Obama takes the cake, hands down, worst president ever. But think of Woodrow Wilson as the Jimmy Carter of his day. Only Woodrow Wilson, I think he was just more angry. Jimmy Carter was just incompetent. Woodrow Wilson tried to stay out of World War I. He wanted a diplomatic solution. Does that sound familiar? During that war, Germany would sink anything. They even sank a British ocean liner which had well over 100 Americans on it, and that was in 1915. The war was well underway. Wasn't that enough? No. More lives had to be lost. Germany even tried to recruit Mexico. Germany was willing to help Mexico regain Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, if they would jump in the war against the United States. I think Mexico stayed out of it. They learned their lesson in the 1800s. Germany, however, continued to go about its submarine missions and sinking ships. It sank civilian ships, ocean liners, trade ships, merchant ships. Finally, Woodrow Wilson stepped in 1917, and the war was over in 1918. That was all it took, 1 year. Why did he wait? Why do liberals put their stupid ideology ahead of what's best for America? By the time Woodrow Wilson acted, the war had escalated on a global scale, hence the term World War. How many lives were lost because the liberal freak show president of that time failed to act decisively? After World War I, America emerged as a world power and a force to be reckoned with. Franklin Delano Roosevelt did not want to get involved in World War II. In fact, he promised to stay out of it. Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, and soon another murderous regime of thugs grew unchecked in power. They started annexing land in Austria and Czechoslovakia. England was content to try the old trading land for peace routine. We've heard that before, right? That didn't end well. Germany invaded Denmark. They invaded Norway. Hitler started bombing England. He invaded Russia. The Germans got all the way into Kiev, virtually taking Ukraine and Crimea, and all the while slaughtering the Jews. Until finally the situation was so bad, we had to get involved. And you may not know this. You probably know Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, but I bet you don't know that. I mean, they were just on the warpath in the 1930s. They invaded China, and they took Beijing. They invaded Mongolia and Russia on the east. What did Roosevelt do? He stopped trading with Japan. He thought, that'll teach him. So the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And they did that kind of as a safety net. They wanted to bomb Pearl Harbor and take out the American fleet. That way they could go about seizing land and resources all over the Western Pacific. So they bombed Pearl Harbor, and now we're at war on two fronts. How many millions of people had to die? Thank you, liberal Democrats. Now ask yourself this question. What was Ronald Reagan's big war? Think about that. The answer is there wasn't one. There were conflicts here and there. There were dictators that stood up and flexed their muscles, but Reagan put that stuff to rest. I mean, quickly and permanently. When the United States invaded Grenada in 1983 under Reagan, there was a faction led by this guy, Bernard Cord. He took control of the government and ultimately murdered his predecessor. This was one bad dude. He actually enforced a curfew for like a week or so. Anyone seen on the street was executed. Just summarily executed. The surrounding island nations, Barbados and Jamaica, other little, Caribbean countries, they thought they were going to be next. So they asked America for help. And Ronald Reagan met the challenge. Did you know that the day America invaded Grenada is now a national holiday down there? That's true. But the point is, an ambitious tyrant sought to dominate that part of the world, and it ended quickly and efficiently without millions of people having to die. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. Remember Gaddafi? He stood up and started having a fit. Reagan dropped some bombs on him and shut him right up. We didn't hear from him for another 20 years after that. That's how you have to deal with these punks, quickly, decisively, permanently. But now we have what amounts to a dead fish occupying the White House, and we see what's going on. Putin is taking full advantage of Obama's incompetence. China is getting ambitious. The Middle East is just a complete bloody war zone in Iraq and Syria, not to mention what Hamas has done in Gaza, all because of this jelly spine president of ours who goes around saying stupid stuff like this.
We will send an additional 475 service members to Iraq. As I've said before, these American forces will not have a combat mission. We will not get dragged into another ground war in Iraq.
He's also said he refuses to get into another long, drawn-out war in Iraq. Who says it has to be long and drawn out? Right now, with our military strength and technology, we could obliterate the Islamic State in a day. And yes, some other group might pop up, kind of like whack-a-mole, you knock one down, another one comes up. But trust me, 2 or 3 more obliterations later, and they'll figure it out. But instead, Obama is pussyfooting around. He's dropping bombs here, dropping bombs there. He wants to train the Iraqis and Syrian rebels. Remember, terrorists will find no safe haven. If you harm Americans, we are sending the Iraqis after you. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out war. Let's just take care of business and move on. How many more people have to die, Mr. President? How many more acts of terror have to occur? I'm going to stop saying acts of terror. I'm going to stop calling it terrorism. These are not acts of terror. It's not terrorism. What exactly is terrorism? Did you ever ask yourself that? They're acts of war. When Germany sunk ocean liners, nobody called it terrorism. It was an act of war. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, was that an act of terrorism? Was that Japanese terrorism? No, it was an act of war. Let's just drop the word terrorism from the discussion. I think it'll clear things up. We are living the history that leads to aggression and conflict. We could very well be witnessing the buildup to World War III at this very moment, all because of the weakness of Barack I, all because of his inability to make a decision, his inability to be a leader and take decisive action, and all to appease his left-wing lunatic liberal base of voters who don't understand that the Islamists they defend want to kill them, and will the minute they get the chance. Liberals, take your brain for a test drive. Stay right there. Back after this.
Listening to the Ray Warner Show. Resistance is futile.
Are you concerned about your privacy? Identity theft? Corporate eavesdropping? Who's listening in on your confidential calls? Silent Circle's innovative suite of encrypted communication services allows you the privacy you need and the ease of use you deserve. We've built a customized system focused on security, simplicity, and service, fashioned from the ground up by our team of world-renowned experts with no logging, no data farming, and no backdoors of any kind for anyone. When a Silent Circle subscriber makes a phone call, sends a text, or exchanges a file with another Silent Circle member, that transmission is encrypted, peer-to-peer, end-to-end, direct from your own mobile device or personal computer. With the addition of OutCircle access, you can even call individuals outside the circle knowing you're still encrypted to and from the silent network. Whether you're a small business concerned with corporate espionage, a governmental organization tasked to safeguard sensitive operations, or an individual protecting your family, you can trust Silent Circle's user-friendly apps and services to provide you with an affordable alternative to the risk you've had to accept until now. Silent Circle's groundbreaking global platform is the world's standard for secure mobile communications. Send a secure text across town or whisper in someone's ear 10,000 miles away. Silent Circle has revolutionized how the world communicates securely. Get in the circle.
It's a war crime of unimaginable horror. Hamas is using children as human shields to protect its rockets aimed at innocent Israelis. This is not an act of war. It's an act of barbarism from a terrorist organization whose charter calls for the destruction of Israel. That's why world leaders have condemned Hamas. Speak out against terrorism. Visit StopHamasNow.com. Sign our petition today.
Welcome back, folks. We are so glad you are joining us for this week's Ray Warner Show. I'm Ray Warner. If you want to email me, or you can rant, or you can vent, whatever your heart desires, the email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. I have got a bunch of stories here that I keep looking at, and I can't decide which ones to talk about. Let's see. Did you see Leonardo DiCaprio at the UN? You know, I saw this. Let me play this soundbite. Leo is up there. Leo, he's like the UN's messenger of peace or something like that. This guy, what a joke. He's up there talking about, of all things, global warming. You know, the UN is supposed to be some kind of serious body of national leaders. It's supposed to be some kind of place where world leaders get together and discuss events. And, I mean, they have serious, important stuff going on. And they're going to let this clown walk up to the podium and talk about global warming. I mean, if you need any more evidence than that the UN is just now a complete joke, you're just not paying attention. And he's up there. He looks like he has had his tinfoil hat cinched tightly to his head for some time. I mean, his hair was pulled straight back so tight, and his little ponytail done up in a cute little bun. How ridiculous. And this is some of what he said.
I stand before you not as an expert, but as a concerned citizen. As an actor, I pretend for a living. Every week we're seeing new and undeniable climate events, evidence that accelerated climate change is here right now. We are seeing extreme weather events and the West Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets melting at unprecedented rates, decades ahead of scientific projections. Climate change is our single greatest security threat. You can make history, or you will be vilified by it. To be clear, this is not about just telling people to change their light bulbs or to buy a hybrid car. The economy itself will die if our ecosystems collapse. Clean air and a livable climate are inalienable human rights. And solving this crisis is not a question of politics, it is a question of our own survival.
Leo, I am embarrassed for you. You know, what is it with these Hollywood liberals? He probably had some, global warming freak come up to him. Hey, you want to save the planet? And he said, save the planet? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I want to do that. What a joke. Leo, now I was just going to say, take your brain for a test drive. But Leo, find the keys, man. At least get the thing started. Get it running. Baby steps. Leo was at the People's Climate March. There was some good interviews that came out of there. This one, Michelle Fields, she's a reporter. I think she works at the Daily Caller. Or at least she did. I'm not sure. Anyway, listen to this interview that she had with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the People's Climate March.
This is a pretty large event. There were millions of flyers handed out, over 400 buses with people coming here. Are you concerned about the damage to the environment that something like that would cause?
I think you need this kind of event to save the environment. What I'm concerned with is the kind of damage that's being caused by Exxon and the Koch brothers and by the oil wars that we've spent $4 trillion on over the last 10 years. And the only thing between us and that kind of future, where the oil companies have subverted our democracy and are running our foreign policy and running our domestic policy, is people power. They have the money on their side. We have the people on our side, and we need the people here to show that they don't want to take it anymore.
Do you have an iPhone or an Android?
I have a cell phone.
You do? Are you concerned about the damage that the cell phone and electricity generation causes to the environment?
Are you joking about this?
No, I want to know if you're willing to give up your iPhone.
No,
Are you
I'm
willing
not
to give? Why not? Doesn't it start with people like you? You're here saying you want.
No, it starts by changing the laws so to rationalize the marketplace so that we reward the most efficient forms of energy use, and we punish the bad ones.
Shouldn't you lead by example?
No, I do lead by example.
So are you going to give up your cell phone?
No, I'm not going to give up my.
Are you going to give up your car?
Are you going to give up yours?
I'm not the one who's here talking about the environment. You're here trying to change the environment, trying to change the laws. So I'm asking if you are going to lead by example.
No, I'm not going to stop using a cell phone, and I'm not going to stop using. I don't believe that we have to reduce our quality of life in order to have a rational free market, in order to stop the use of carbon, in order to divorce ourselves from a fuel that is destroying our planet. What we need to do is change the laws. It's much more important to change your politician than it is to change your light bulb or your cell phone or your automobile. It's much more important because right now, the Koch brothers own the Tea Party, they own the Republican Party, and they own a lot of the Democratic Party. And if they were saying to us, listen, we don't care what kind of car you use, but we're going to make a law that says you can't make a car in this country unless it gets 40 miles per gallon, or you can't make a car unless it's an electric car.
Is that not priceless? Just typical liberal, spouting out liberal BS, but refuses to abide by the same rules he wishes to impose on everyone else. If you really believe in the cause, why don't you lead by example? You know, Al Gore has a very large home that sits beneath where he said the sea level would rise to by now. He never sold it, and we are past the time he said it would rise. You think he really believes his own BS? If he really believed that, don't you think he would have unloaded that house? But he didn't. I'm so sick of this tinfoil hat global warming crap. It's all political. It's all about control. Did you hear, getting back to the Islamic threat, did you hear about the beheading in Oklahoma City? Oh yeah, they are here, folks. There was a beheading in Oklahoma City. The Islamic State, we know, is calling for lone wolf attacks here in America. This guy needed to get fired before he snapped, but, I mean, is that it, really? The next time an Islamist is fired, I mean, that could be in your town. Here is the story. This is from Fox News. FBI probing suspect's recent conversion to Islam in Oklahoma beheading. FBI officials are investigating a beheading at an Oklahoma food distribution center after coworkers said the suspect tried to convert them to Islam after his own recent conversion. The suspect, Alton Nolan, 30, was... Oh, by the way, this is the story of the same event reported in Yahoo News. Listen to this headline. Police, woman beheaded at Oklahoma workplace. That's the headline. Is that not pathetic? In the Yahoo article, you have to get, let me see, past the headline, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 paragraphs in before there is any mention of Islam. This is the problem, folks. The stupid liberal media. Anyway, back to the Fox News story. The suspect, Alton Nolan, 30, was recently fired from Vaughn Foods in Moore prior to Thursday's attack. Moore Police Department Sergeant Jeremy Lewis told KFOR that Nolan drove to the front of the business and struck a vehicle before walking inside. He then attacked Colleen Hufford, 54, stabbing her several times before severing her head. He also stabbed another woman, 43-year-old Tracy Johnson, at the plant. Lewis said Mark Vaughn, the company's chief operating officer and a Reserve County deputy, shot Nolan as he was stabbing Johnson. And I guess Johnson is now in stable condition. He's a hero in this situation, Lewis told the station. It could have gotten a lot worse. Nolan was apparently attacking employees at random, authorities said. The motive for the attack is unclear, but FBI officials confirmed to Fox News that they are assisting the Moore Police Department in investigating Nolan's background and whether his recent conversion to Islam was somehow linked to the crime. Well, let's see. Converted to Islam, trying to spread Islam, beheading people. Yeah, it's about closes that case, doesn't it? The police department issued a statement saying, after conducting interviews with Nolan's co-workers, information was obtained that he recently started trying to convert several employees to the Muslim religion. Due to the manner of death and the initial statements of co-workers and other initial information, the Moore Police Department requested the assistance of the FBI in conducting a background investigation into Nolan, blah, 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 and it goes on. But that's the gist of it. Here it is, people. Defend yourselves. I want all listeners of my show who do not have their concealed carry permit, go out and get it. Go get your permit. Don't hesitate. Go get it now. Get a firearm. Shoot some target practice. Learn how to defend yourself because it's here. Okay? This Islamic threat is here. Seattle, New Jersey, Oklahoma. Where will the next one be? Listen to this guy.
Inshallah, we'll make some attacks in New York soon. Bid'Allah ta'ala. A lot of brothers, they're mobilizing right now in the West. Alhamdulillah.
And what are they mobilizing for?
Mobilizing for a brilliant attack, my friend. The only time we will stop is when Bayt al-Abiyad has a black flag over it. Lillahi alhamd. The only time we will stop is when we paint Bayt al-Abiyad black. Lillahi alhamd. We will stop when we behead the heads of kufr. Lillahi alhamd. And when we turn his children into our slaves. That's maybe when we will stop. Maybe. When we crucify Benjamin Netanyahu for his war crimes, maybe that's when we will stop.
When you were saying you were going to fly your flag over the...
Bayt al-Abiyad.
Yeah, what's that?
The White House.
So fly the Islamic State flag over the White House.
That was Farah shirt on. This is one of the guys who left Canada to go fight with the Islamic State, as many other people have done, from all over the world, actually. Americans are doing this. They go to the Middle East, they fight with the Islamic State, and then they can just return because they're Americans. Is the government watching these people? This guy, this was in an interview. Look it up. You can probably find it, and you'll hear him answering questions about attacks. He says they are planning something soon to happen in New York. A lot of brothers are mobilizing right now, he says, mobilizing for a brilliant attack. And he goes on about a lot of the same stuff. You know, we're coming, we're going to kill you all and rape your women and drown you in blood, Sharia and all of this and jihad that. You know, I'm so sick of hearing these Islamic pigs and their yakety yak. Get yourselves armed. Defend yourselves, defend your families. Don't wait for Obama to take care of the Islamic threat. You know he's not going to do it. When you're attacked, what are you going to do? You're going to call Homeland Security? Be prepared. They are here. Who knows when the next attack will be? Who knows where it will be? And that's it, folks, for this week. Thank you so much for listening in. I am Ray Warner, host of this, The Ray Warner Show. Don't forget, you can email me if you have questions, comments. If you disagree, let me have it. If you need to rant or vent, you can email me that too. Email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. You can also comment on the website, on the posts part of the podcast page. You go to a post and you can comment there. If you like the show, like it on Facebook. You'd be surprised where you find it. We're on the Facebook and the Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. You can get the show and the quick reports on iTunes if you prefer. But however you do it, I thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. So long.